Hey guys, my name is Frank, and in this video, I'm going to be playing Steel Armor Blades of War, or more specifically, going to be showing you how to use the unit deployment phase and the initial orders phase, which are two phases before the actual battle begins. It's very similar to medieval Total War, where you get to move around your units and position them in a deployable area outside of the battlefield, and so just compare it to that, I guess. Or even Steel Beast in a sense. So anyway, the green areas, or the areas that we can control, areas that our team controls are where we can deploy our forces. We do not. No one controls Theta, so this area is completely open. However, the Mujahideen control the two zones in the middle, while we control one zone on the left and two zones on the right. You're gonna disable those markers, by the way, by clicking the little flag icon on the bottom left. You could also cycle through the icons of what your units look like by clicking this right here. I think there's three different types, so here's 1, 2, and 3. I like this one and this one the most. This one's very general. Anyway, next is this. It shows order list and current targets. This won't really, you won't be able to see the effect of this in the unit deployment phase, or maybe even, not even the initial orders phase, but once you're in a battle, you'll be able to see lines being drawn from the units to their waypoints and targets and stuff like that. So if a unit is engaged with a contact across the river, it will kind of do a line that it's doing right now, except it'll be a solid line. Right now it's just doing this little tracer effect because it's just following my cursor. Next is the briefing. I'm not going to leave it enabled because it's kind of annoying, but once you enable it, you have a guy talking, and he's giving out orders or whatever, but it's irrelevant, and some very pointless markers. I guess that's useful if you set all your units to be controlled by AI. How you could do that is you select all your units, and I can't do it right now. I have to be in an initial orders phase, but you'll be able to set your AI to be able to control these units that you control. Right now, I control everything. I have no allies, so what I could do is I could select them and then press F once I'm in the battle, of course. But I'm not going to do that right now. Next is, oh yeah, when you have a unit selected or a unit selected, you can automatically deploy them in cover and elevated terrain or lowlands. And you can determine what the terrain looks like or how it will help you by looking at the color coding of each little square. I haven't figured out exactly what each color means, but I do know for a fact that they do represent cover or terrain elevation or something like that. Some kind of benefit or non-benefit. So these bright green dotted line squares are pretty much open areas, it seems. Although there's solid square ones too, so I don't know what the difference is, but yeah, there's also very rugged terrain in this that affects the tracks and wheeled vehicles and stuff like that too. So, for example, mud can affect your vehicles, so it could be possibly the, shitty terrain for vehicles or even infantry. But anyway, let's not dwell too much over here. Also, one more thing is you could rotate your units and also take up defense. Take up defense, I'm pretty sure that means that they're going to be entrenched into the terrain. And this game has terraforming, which basically means that tanks that roll around, for example, will actually leave indents in the terrain. Explosions will create craters, actual 3D craters in the terrain, and blow shit up. Stuff like that. So when it's actually raining out and muddy as fuck, then that's when you'll really see the terrain getting terraformed. So that's really cool. And also, infantry and stuff can create trenches in the actual terrain. It's not like some 3D model of a trench. It's actually being dug into the terrain. It's pretty fucking cool. Anyway, moving along. Oh yeah, so you can rotate your units by pressing R, I think. Yes, press R, and then right-click in the direction you want that unit to be rotated. You just right-click to have him rotated. And you have this little arrow that shows you which way he's facing. That determines if he's defending or not, or entrenched rather. If he's taking up defense, it'll be a C-looking icon. And if he's not taking up defense, it'll be the arrow. Anyway, next is, I think that's it, automatic deployment. I have never used that. I'm not going to go over that right now. But let's click on finish the deployment right there. Now this is the initial orders phase. This is where we get to give our units orders before the mission actually starts that will be taken into effect immediately when the mission starts. Or when the battle starts, whatever. So over here we have our mechanized or motorized infantry. They're in 113s. And over here we have more motorized infantry and more motorized infantry. We have tanks out here somewhere. There they are. Here are our tanks. We can give them orders, so we can tell them to move to an area, and we can give specific commands, so have them in free formation, which means they won't really try to be in a line or column formation. You can put them in a column or line right here. You could also set it to tanks in front, so if you have infantry selected also, you could select, if you have a unit selected and you want to select these guys also, hold control and create a box around them. And that will also select the tanks, or whatever the fuck you want to select, for example. And if you're holding down control and you keep trying to click around, it will not deselect those units. But if you let go of control and you drag around, it will deselect them. Pretty common shit for an RTS sense. Next is, you could also give attack selected areas. It's basically the same exact thing as giving them a move command or a road command, but different behaviors or goals, I guess, with the waypoint. You can give them different formations, like dense will be very close formation, tight formation. Normal will be not as tight, just, you know, decent distance. Probably like, I would say this is probably about 50-meter spacing is normal formation, and sparse formation is probably 100 meters or more. Depends, I guess. And then there's a single line formation, double line, and triple line. So I think the way triple line works is if, depending on how many units you have, it'll create a triple line, or if you have other elements selected. So if you have your motorized infantry platoon selected as well as your tank section, then if you create double line, tanks will be in the front and motorized infantry will be in the back. If you have the tanks in the front selected. If you don't have that selected, I'm pretty sure the infantry take priority, or whoever is faster. What else? Also, we have march to selected area. This basically, as far as I know, means that they're not going to be charging. Telling them to move or attack, especially, will have them charge more, it seems like. But with marching and moving, marching especially, they pretty much just walk and patrol, in a sense. And if you have them on the roads, they'll definitely patrol up the road. Looks actually really cool when they're in a column formation, patrolling up a road. Anyway, with infantry. Next is the move covertly. I haven't used this yet, but I think it basically makes them serpentine up to the waypoint to avoid getting hit by AT rounds and stuff like that. And yeah. It may also apply, I don't know yet, I can't confirm this, but it probably works at night also as a sort of like a stealth behavior if you're used to armor, where the AI might turn off their headlights and shit like that. That'd be really cool. Because if you don't have them move covertly, then they have their headlights on anyway, so even if they're in combat. And anyway, let's give them waypoints. Also, another thing is you don't have to use these three to give them orders. You can also right click on the map, and then there's a bunch of things you can do here. You can tell for example, if you have infantry around, you can tell them to mount into the 113 vehicles, which I'm going to do. These guys apparently are already mounted because I don't see any infantry in the map. So I could right click over here, tell them to dismount. And we got our tanks here. We could tell them to hunt, which is basically seek and destroy mode. Seek cover basically tells them to find a, cover or concealment. And assault and attack seem to be the same. I haven't figured out a difference in the behavior yet. Recon will have them try to focus on finding targets and scouting areas, aside from just engaging shit. Covert move is, like I said, where they serpentine and try to be stealthy, or that's my impression on it. Fast move, they try to find the fastest routes and use the fastest speed to get to an area. And march, they do not use the fastest speed, they try to take their time going up and try to thoroughly move to the area, if that makes sense. They're trying to thoroughly scan for targets as they move up, if that makes sense. And set targets I have not figured out yet. I think set targets means that they will prioritize greater threats, but I'm not positive. So if I click set, if there's enemies in this area and I click set targets, I think that means that they will prioritize the enemies in that area. Fire sector and turn, area fire. I haven't used these two, so I cannot comment on those. But you can tell units to fire on the area for suppression or whatever. Or if you have artillery units. 113s, I know, some of them anyway, have mortars in them. So that's like an artillery unit in a sense. You could also give, with a V key, or by clicking this button, you could set fire sector. So what I can do is do this. If you want to get rid of a fire sector, you just press V again, V twice, with the unit selected. And they will move with those these sectors being maintained. These will not rotate. This unit will always be facing this exact direction, or at least his sector will always be in this area, if that makes sense. So if he does a U-turn, his sector is still in this direction, if that makes sense. What else do we have? Set priority targets. Like I said, that's for greater threats, I'm pretty sure. So basically AT and stuff like that. You could have them not engage infantry or to engage infantry. So if you have tanks, for example, and you don't want to waste high explosive rounds on infantry or something like that, you could just disable this. And fire at will, this is pretty simple. Basically tell them to hold fire or to engage. Stay concealed, you can tell them to stay in concealment or to get out of it. We'll tell them to, we're going to tell them to stay out of it. And here, this is what I was talking about earlier. You can transfer units under AI control. And that's pretty simple. The AI will take over and try to do whatever it can to do the objective on its own, without you having to give them orders. And I think that's it. You could also tell them to dismount here. And I think that's it. Cancel orders. So if I want to, I could cancel orders. Canceling orders also only means that you'll cancel the waypoint, not really the fire sector and stuff like that. I think that's everything. Just about everything. Anyway, that's it. So yeah, let's start and then when you want to start the mission, click this button right here. Even though it says pause, that's for some reason the play button. There we are, we're in the game. 47 frames inside the tank and 70 frames, over 70 frames while recording. So that's not too bad. Graphics aren't perfect, but they're not bad at all either. So anyway, I'm going to do another video after this, me actually doing the mission, and I'll see you guys then. Hopefully this video is helpful, and if it was, like it, and if you didn't like it, then I'll be doing armor